What's good, Fins Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here with another one. We got, of course, the Jason Taylor to my Zach Thomas, EMdolphinfan. But we're also joined by special guests tonight. You all know him, Mr. BallGame, here to drop some gems and some insight along with what EM got a decent show lined up for y'all. And I think EM and BallGame are really going to shine when we get into this situation about these guys and how they're going to be helping us up. But as always, like EM's pointing to his cup, it's fins up every day. But before we get into, Van Noy, Ogbah, Lawson, and a little bit of Curtis Weaver, we just got a couple housekeeping things we're going to go over here, guys. First of all, I want to thank all y'all. We're at 820 subscribers. We're 180 away from 1,000, and who would have thunk when we started this 2 months ago we'd be that close and with that rapid of a growth rate. I want to thank y'all for continuing to show love. Y'all that make the donations, people in the comments who are consistently here. We appreciate each and every one of you. But let's start off with a little bit of non-football news. Let's talk about Dak Prescott. So the latest basically news going on is that the Cowboys offered him 5 years, $35 million per at $175 million. But he's okay with the first 4 years being $35 million, but he wants that 50-year option. He wants it to be $45 million. So what he wants is basically 5 years, $185 million. I want to get both of y'all thoughts on, first of all, is he worth $35 million a year? And second of all, I know the cap will be going up, and I'm sure TV deals will be in place. But is he even worth $45 million 5 years down the line?
You go ahead, BallGame.
All right. So I would say first and foremost, man, that I can't be mad at the young man for wanting to get as much money out of the process as he can possibly get. $35 million to me seems like, to be truthful, a very fair and understandable to most, and I don't think anybody will scoff at it, offer that's on the table for him. Adding an additional $10 million to the fifth year of that contract, though, kind of suggests that he has to do some astronomical things over those first four in order to get to that fifth. So if I was going to do it, I'd write it. But there's certain goals that have to be in place in order that certain things that he'd have to reach, certain things that we'd have to do as an organization for me to have to come through on the back end of paying him $45 million in that fifth year, because at the end of the day, the contract is a contract, but it's only as good as the production that I get out of him as the leader of my team on the field. 35 puts him in very, very special company in terms of quarterbacks in the league that have done amazing things consistently over their careers. So I wouldn't say that Dak's a premier guy just yet, but I don't know, man. I just have a hard time paying that type of money to a quarterback when you know that without a shadow of a doubt, other positions on your field are just as important, and one guy can't win every game for you. But I'm also torn with he's putting his body on the line every Sunday, and they're going through what they're going through trying to win. So fair compensation is necessary, but these contracts, man, are really getting ridiculous. If the guy's taking up that much of your cap, it's going to be hard for you to do a lot of other things.
And he's not even – so just before we get into UEM and BallGame, he's not even a transcendent talent, and he's asking for that kind of –
right.
But, okay, so BallGame, would you be a little bit more comfortable with that fifth year at 45 if it was a team option?
Yes. Okay. Yes, for sure. Because I think initially they were offering him a salary that was nestling him right in between Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of appropriate when you look at the numbers that he's had, especially him being a fourth round guy and what he's been able to accomplish every year, getting better and better. And his numbers aren't he has an argument. My thing becomes, why would I give you 10 extra million in the fifth year when we haven't even gotten to that point yet? Now I'm paying you money that you might not ever even live up to getting. And now I'm just that much as an organization deep in the hole of money owed to you. Now, if it was team option, like you said, then yeah, I'd do it. But $35 million, I think, is a really fair offer for Dak Prescott. Whoever is around him, advising him, man, he might want to get somebody else in there as a second voice of reason, because that's a lot of money. 35 million. Go ahead.
I'm in agreement with you, BallGame, as far as him, as far as it being a fair offer based off his resume, what he's like, the overall team success that he's had since he's been brought into the league, since he got drafted. But do I think Dak Prescott is worth $35 million? No, absolutely not. It's maybe one, two, at this stage, just maybe two players in the entire league that I can, I can point at them and say, yeah, they deserve to be the highest paid at that position. Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else, it's up for debate. So with that being said, just based off how, the nature of the position and the nature of players at that position are getting paid, it's like a next man up type of scenario. Right. Dak has a case. He's not a bad player. He's a very good quarterback. You know what I mean? He's had, again, this is his fourth year. He's had his team in the playoffs 2 of those 4 years. Okay. He threw for almost 5,000 yards last year. So he's got a legitimate case from that perspective. But does his, like Reason said, he's not a transcendent talent. His talent doesn't justify a contract of that magnitude. So me personally, if I'm Jerry Jones, man, that's a tough situation to be in, because obviously they don't deem Dak as that, as that level of a player, because if they did, the contract would have been done a long time ago, So, I don't envy Jerry. I don't envy the Cowboys, for being in this situation, because if you don't pay Dak Prescott, what's the alternative? Are you that confident in Andy Dalton? Is good, because they're in win now. They're in win now mode. Right. The Cowboys fully, based off the roster they have built the last 3-4 years, they fully, in their eyes, they think they have a championship caliber roster.
And they added CeeDee Lamb. And you added
CeeDee Lamb in the draft. So they're in win now mode. So
if you look at their roster.
Do it.
Yeah, if you look at their roster, it's full of talent.
Oh,
yeah. So they, again, their mindset is that they are in win now mode. So with that being said, I mean, that's a tough situation. Do I think Dak is worth that kind of money? Absolutely not. But considering the landscape of that, the NFL and the process that goes along with paying these quarterbacks, he's got a legitimate case based off of his individual numbers and as well as his, the team success that he's had.
I really don't like the trend.
I get it. I
don't like the trend though, man. I don't.
But you're coming off an 8-8 season where you and they literally call the NFC least, bro. You got all that. You got Zeke behind you. You got, they had Michael Gallup that they brought in to add to Amari. Now you got CeeDee Lamb. They have arguably one of the best offensive lines in football, but now their center retired. Like, to me, you're coming off an 8-8 season and you're asking for that kind of money, bro. Like, that's just I don't know, man. The timing doesn't line up for me. Like, I get what you're saying. He almost threw for 5,000 yards, but let's also remember he wasn't putting up these numbers before they had Amari Cooper.
You know what the problem is?
But he still was very good, though, Reason.
He was decent. So, but the thing is, okay, let me ask you this, BallGame, and let me ask you this, EM. Do you consider Dak Prescott a top 10 quarterback in the NFL?
Top 15, no. I'm not top 10.
I agree with you, top 15, but he wants to be paid like top 3.
Really, if you're talking about in terms of top 10, name the other 9 players that you would put in front of him.
Breeze.
At this stage?
Well, I was just saying,
at this stage,
about where they are right now. So
you
have to take into consideration guys that are still playing. Right? We have to. If we compare,
that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. Is Brady playing at that level, at the level of Dak Prescott right now?
Yeah,
that's questionable. That's highly debated.
So he threw for 800 and some odd yards less than he did the previous season. But like Brady.
This is in March. I was on a podcast and someone asked me who my top 10. So here, I'll put you right before Mahomes, Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Breeze, Watson, Brady, Wilson, Wentz, Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray. I'll all put ahead of. I'll all put it down because Kyler Murray looks like he's going to be He has the potential to be. But I never saw that from Dak. Okay, like Kyler Murray has already lived up to being picked number 1 overall. Never mind being in the 4th round because I mean, look what he did with what he had last year. So I'll put those guys in front of Dak all day of the week, bro. If you're gonna sit here and someone's gonna ask you who do you want, Dak or Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray, you're probably gonna say Kyler Murray, bro.
His numbers suggest that he has to be paid somewhere in the realm of Carson Wentz just on what he's been able to accomplish statistically. So that's the problem. Right now at this point, the Dallas Cowboys are caught in the middle of a situation where teams around them have drafted guys that were have brought in guys that were drafted higher than him, and although they haven't had the numbers statistically that Dak had, they had to pay them. So with Dak being a 4th round pick and having them numbers, you know what I'm saying, that he's had, that's the issue. You know what
it is, BallGame? It's Goff. It's the Jared Goff contract.
It started with Jared Goff.
Thing up, bro.
Yeah.
Like, Wentz, you can at least say, hey, before he got hurt, he was probably in the forefront of the MVP running the year they won the Super Bowl before they got hurt.
The Jared Goff thing blew it all out of proportion. Yeah. Everybody else was following around with it at this point.
I'm not putting, not at this stage, I'm not putting Kyle Murray above Dak Prescott. I'm not putting Matt Ryan above Dak Prescott at this
Matt Ryan been to a Super Bowl, and that year he went to the Super Bowl.
I'm talking about now. I said now. Last time I checked, he didn't go to the Super Bowl and win it last year. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Either did Dallas. They were only 2 picks apart in the draft. And
Carson Wentz,
Matt Ryan, other than Julio and Calvin Ridley, when you look at his offensive line and especially the defense, he doesn't have a defense that Dak can trust in, and he does not have that offensive line, and he did not have a Zeke Elliott, bro. So I mean, Matt Ryan.
I give you that. Dak is in terms of the skill position. They don't lack weapons, but the team as a whole,
they shouldn't be like that offense alone.
I agree,
built, but there's no reason they should have been 8-8 last year, bro.
I agree, but their team as a whole underachieved last year. I think Dak is criticized a little unfairly, laying that 8-8 record at putting that in his lap and putting all the blame on him. Their defense.
I don't put that on.
Okay, their defense as a whole underachieved. They regressed last year. That offensive line, I'm telling you, was banged up a good stretches of the season. Tyron Smith is not what he was. You know what I mean? Obviously, Travis Frederick was not what he was, and he's gone. Mm-hmm. He's gone. He's retired. So the only other player that on that offensive line, as we're sitting here talking today, that you can say is Pro Bowl caliber is Zach Martin, and he's even been banged up.
Right.
So again, I'm not sitting here defending anything Cowboy related. I'm just trying to be as objective as possible in terms of the Dak Prescott's case in terms of asking for this potential contract.
I could have justified it. To me, looking at the numbers and looking at his progress over the last 4 years, I could have went into any organization and I could have went and sat down with Jerry in front of him and fought hard and justified $32 million. 35 is a little bit harder for me to sell just because of you have to factor in, and at that point, what the team has done. But what he did statistically for himself in terms of 4th round pick to where he is now, I could justify saying, okay, 32 million a season. I can live with that because that's the going rate anyway. But that's because of what the trend suggested. But now you're pushing the envelope and asking me on the back end to eat really for 4 seasons another 12 million, right? If it's 32 to 35, right? And then I gotta jump another 10 in the 5th year to 45 million. That's just hard for me because now I have to 100% believe that you're going to last throughout the duration of this contract. You're going to be able to play and be available every down for me as my general on the field And a lot of that stuff just way too. He has no control over any of that. So if I had the team option, like you said, in that 5th year, I'd probably do it, and I'd ask him to come down to maybe 33.5. Beat me in the middle. Let's go 33.5.
And let me ask you this.
You got to look at it this. You got to look at it this.
The early indications are Mahomes is going to be around 40 million a year. Okay, but there are talks that he might take a team friendly deal. That's been out there. Okay, so let's say he's between 34 to 40 million dollars a year. Okay. And 2 years as a starter, he's gone to the AFC Championship and he's won a Super Bowl. So you're saying, and I'm not saying you, but I'm saying Dak and his people are thinking he is even in the – like, I agree he should be paid more than a Jared Goff. But should he be in that realm, even sniffing what Mahomes is going to be making?
Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl.
Well,
I mean,
if you're talking about,
but he had like one good year, right? He had one good year, really.
If you're talking about the individual player, no. But based on how business is, based on how the structure, the process on how they pay quarterbacks, Dak has got a legitimate case. Kirk Cousins, his resume clearly exceeds Kirk Cousins. Even you can make an argument that his resume is better than what Carson Wentz's resume. Carson Wentz can't even stay on the field. So he's got a legitimate case. Do I think he's that caliber of player? Absolutely not. But the only thing we can go by is how business is conducted in the NFL in regards to that position. And he's got a legitimate case. And then on top of that, think about how he feels. Think about how he feels in terms of Ezekiel Elliott. They reset the market with him. Yeah, they gave all that money to Jalen Smith. They reset the market with DeMarcus Lawrence. And Dak Prescott is sitting here. He's sitting here looking at all these other players. I'm like, man, you maxing these other guys out. But I can't get what my value is.
Cooper got 100 million.
I get it.
Cooper got 100 million.
And look at all of them players they regressed last year. DeMarcus Lawrence, 2 sacks. He got a $100 million contract, and he had 2 sacks last year. Ezekiel Elliott came in fat all year long, out of shape. He let that 3rd round pick outperform him last year. Well, not totally, but
not totally.
So, and Jalen Smith regressed last year. His play declined. Yep. So I can see why Dak Prescott was like, no, the mistakes you made was paying Ezekiel Elliott first off, in my opinion as well. That's the first mistake he made. He should have let Zeke stay in Cabo. That's what I would have done. And he shouldn't have paid Jalen Smith all of that money. I get DeMarcus Lawrence because you're going to pay the way teams structure their payroll. The higher end contracts generally go to quarterbacks, pass rushers, and cornerbacks. Guys that can cover.
Right.
So I get, from that perspective, I get why you made that investment in DeMarcus Lawrence. But again, I can see why Dak Prescott is taking a stance that he is. But because
my problem with Dak though here is he is literally the definition of, and I mean you can't even say win, but he is the definition of you need to build an offense around him for him to be successful. Whereas Wentz, dude, the guy suffered, what did he have? The first or the second most drops in the NFL suffered last year. The guy, you want to talk about a guy whose receiving core was basically people when they walked into a convenience store, they saw guys looking at nibs and Twizzlers and said, hey, can you play football? And we need a receiver this weekend. Wentz was the definition of that. So, and and like I said earlier, before Wentz got hurt on that Super Bowl run, he was the forefront runner. He was in the forefront of the running for MVP that year, bro. I mean, that's not even the guy was absolutely tearing it up. But I mean, I'm not going to pay a guy 45 million, 35 million when you are the definition of, hey, I have to put it. All I've ever seen you with is a good O-line, a good to great O-line. Other than last year, Zeke has been a great running back. Okay. We notice your numbers really start to prop up with the Amari Cooper acquisition, because when you go look at Dak's play before Amari Cooper, it was nowhere near the level of production that he's getting now. And they went and they got Michael Gallup last year, so they invested again in the receiver. And then this year at 18, instead of taking Cesar Ruiz to invest back into that center position, they went out and got CeeDee Lamb to give him another weapon. So
didn't they get Biotis though? Didn't they get Biotis?
Yeah, they got Biotis.
They got Biotis. Okay.
Yeah. So
But
I'm just saying, bro. Like it's not like we're watching this guy put up almost 5,000 yards with Tom, Dick, and Harry on the field, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like going out there with a respectable offensive line, even when they are banged up. To me, their problem last year was more on their defense. And Zeke had a bad year, but their defense was a serious issue last year. And Witten wasn't really the answer when he came back to play tight end, right? So go ahead, boy.
So 2016, he went 3,667 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 2017, he dropped the yardage, 33-24, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 2018, he had 38-85 with 22 and 8. And then last year, he had 49-02 with 30 and 11. It's hard. Really hard.
That's serious production, bro.
So those first 2 years are not serious production. But anyways, when you look at 2018, that's when they got Amari. So you notice if you go look at you can go find the game logs. Go look at Dak Prescott's game logs for the first 7 weeks before they got Amari.
Yeah,
he was struggling.
Well, the first two years was basically his learning years. He was a pup. So,
but look at how disciplined he was in terms of his.
He wasn't a turnover.
Generally quarterbacks when they come into the league, they are turnover machines. Look at how disciplined he was.
He wasn't that at all. The worst turnover the worst year was 2017. He had 13, but he still has stayed over 22. He's thrown over 22 touchdowns a season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were the first 2 years. The first 2 years, you can put those up, and they're similar to the middle of Tannehill's run here in Miami, where he's putting up like 24 to 27 touchdowns, and then he was throwing around 12 picks, 10 picks, etc.
But the difference is his first 2 years, Tannehill was doing that in year 6 and 7, bro. He was already invested in it.
Tannehill also had a whole hell of a lot less to work with than what Dak Prescott.
Than his first 2 years.
I can't really hold Dak responsible for Jerry Jones.
When Dak came in, it was because Romo got hurt, and they were already a win now mode team, bro.
What skill position players are worth mentioning that Dak Prescott had to work with his first 2 years? Skill position. I'm not talking about the O-line.
Nobody but Jason Witten.
Wait.
Well, yeah, he had Jason Witten. The receiving core he had Dez for that first year, right? And then what else? Who was his back? Who was the back? Was that DeMarco Murray's last year in his first year in 2017 before he went to the Titans?
I'm not sure.
And DeMarco, I'm pretty sure in 2016, that was when he was coming off that because I won a fantasy league that year because of DeMarco in 2016. And DeMarco was coming off a huge year. So, because Zeke came in, when did Zeke come? 2017? No, he came in. He had Zeke off the bat, didn't he?
But they were both puppies, though. They were babies, though.
Are you sure? Because Zeke just got re-upped.
I think Zeke came 2017.
Yeah, but he just got re-upped, bro. And he was a first-round pick, so that would be a 4-year plus an option. So that would be a 4-year plus a 5th-year option, bro. So he had Zeke off the rip, too.
Yeah.
I'm just whatever, bro. That new point because he's not even a Dolphin. But I mean, I don't think he's worth. In no realm can you convince me he's worth $35 million a year.
We're all going to agree that right now at this point where they've done the direction they've gone in regards to these quarterback contracts, there's going to be a ton of guys getting ridiculous money that don't deserve it because teams are not prepared to say, "I'm not paying you that." I don't care because the guy behind them, they don't believe in him. So it's unfortunate. I don't think he's necessarily, but man, he gonna have to do something. If they sign him to that contract, he got a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Let's get on to the Chad O'Shea thing because we've already spent 25 minutes on Dak Prescott. So BallGame.
Yes, sir.
Mid-season, and then at the end of the year, you reiterated it. But mid-season, you were hearing last year that Chad O'Shea as a teacher just wasn't really working in the room. And, at the end of the season, we had all heard that by one point in the season, Fitzpatrick was running the chalkboard sessions in the quarterback room, right? But just to give everyone here before we get into ball game, because he's going to give y'all the exact 411 on what he was hearing and how it translated into what I'm about to tell y'all right now. But so conversations with multiple sources close to last year's team, including player feedback, have offered clarity about why Flores opted for a change and why multiple players supported the move. One player described the situation on offense last year as a SHIT show. Nothing O'Shea tried to teach an offense that was too complex for a young team, and that teaching instruction during film study was a disaster. As one player noted, O'Shea tried to run plays that were used in New England, which was predictable because O'Shea had spent the previous 10 seasons there as a wide receivers coach. The Patriots offense is considered complex, but a player said O'Shea made the situation worse by trying to install especially complicated advanced elements of the Patriots offense that Brady and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels used. Those plays and terminology might be second nature to guys like Brady in years 17, 18, and 19 of his career there, but would confuse young Dolphins who were learning the Dolphins offense for the first time. O'Shea would go to Flores and say a player didn't know the playbook, but some of the players felt O'Shea wasn't doing a good job teaching it. And it goes into how he was basically here you go. O'Shea was in the middle of a exit meeting with Fitzpatrick on Monday, December 30th, a day after the season, when one of Flores' assistants interrupted and told O'Shea that Flores wanted to meet with O'Shea. O'Shea told Fitzpatrick to give him a minute, having no idea that Flores was about to fire him. When O'Shea came back from that meeting with Flores, O'Shea told Fitzpatrick that he had been fired, and Fitzpatrick reacted with a surprise. Later in that day, it was learned that Gailey would replace O'Shea. So right away, they knew on the same day, December 30th, that Gailey was coming in. And whether Flores asked Fitzpatrick, who played 5 seasons for Gailey, about Gailey before firing O'Shea is unknown. So BallGame, just go into a little bit of, you were one of the first people that we can recall, and you were doing it in the middle of the season, talking about how O'Shea wasn't getting through to the players in terms of on a coaching level. So can you just go over what you were hearing in the middle of the season and then what you heard at the end of the season?
Yeah, the conversations that were coming back to me from a very reliable source, one close to the guy you guys know that I know as right now on our roster as a quarterback, was that there was no teaching element. O'Shea brought in the system, and the first couple of installments that they got, obviously, my guy got it about 6 weeks after Fitzpatrick had his eyes on it. But at the same time, they were just supposed to just learn all this complex terminology and all of this stuff associated with that playbook, and there was no teaching element. So when they was actually getting into the quarterback rooms and breaking down stuff on the actual boards and whatnot, most of that was done by Fitzpatrick later on, as opposed to O'Shea up there explaining it to the young guys. So most of his conversations in the room were with Fitzpatrick, who had familiarity with the scheme and was the veteran in the room, of course, but the young guys got left out to dry. So it was actually Fitzpatrick who was bringing them along slowly as best he could. The frustrations really came in that O'Shea knew the offense, but he didn't know how to teach it.
Mm-hmm.
And with a team as young as our team was, and you bringing this in for the first time after these guys have been subjected to Gase and subjected to Philbin and some of, you know what I'm saying, and some of them coming from college and all that stuff, it was just too complex. And he didn't have the ability to actually teach it and break it down to them to where they could actually digest it piece by piece. And unfortunately, what we lost out on was that bridge between O'Shea to the kids, and this junction was going to be Caldwell. And when we lost Caldwell, Caldwell he was actually supposed to be the buffer to be in the room with the quarterbacks, especially to help them break down and understand the scheme a little more. Because even the one he ran in, they had in Detroit was kind of similar. All those guys come from the Bill Belichick tree, so there was a lot of similarities to it. So Caldwell, more of a teacher, was going to be the guy to help the young guys understand it more, you know, saying across the entire offense, not just the quarterbacks. But O'Shea was never able to do that, and he never did that. So a lot of his discussions and a lot of the friction that was going on at that time was because he wasn't doing that. He wasn't grooming and growing the guys, right? And he gravitated to Fitzpatrick more so than anybody, obviously, because of the veteran presence he had and his ability to understand what he was asking of him in his offense. But that's not what Flores wanted. Flores wanted the young guys to be able to be nourished too, and they were starving. They were starving for the information, and that showed a lot early on. So when Flores went to him the first time, I don't forget this because I was told this directly. O'Shea told him, that's not my job. They're professionals. They should get into the playbooks. They're not. It's not me. It's them, type of thing. And from a guy that's a player coach, like a guy that's truly regards how his players are actually being able to develop and understand what they got to go through, that didn't sit well with Flores because he said the person that told me this said that the conversation that he overheard in theory was that that's not coaching. That's you passing the buck.
Mm-hmm.
So there were other conversations that came along behind that, and they weren't always great conversations. A lot of yelling, a lot of screaming. You know what I mean? A lot of you're gonna need to do this, or we're gonna have to go a different route, type of thing early on. But we stuck with him because there's loyalty there to your friend. You know what I mean? And I think the hardest thing that Flores had to do, man, really was fire his friend, bro. Like real talk. Because he just wanted what was best for the organization and for his friends too. But at the same time, if you leave your young guys, the future of this team out to dry, and you're not helping them develop, you can't be there. So the Shane Gailey, go ahead.
But I mean, BallGame, I somewhat okay. I get some individuals might be better in terms of the delivery of the information. But at the end of the day, bro, every person is accountable for themselves. It's the players that have to dig into the playbook and and digest that information. I find that extremely difficult to believe that Chad O'Shea just gave them the playbook and had them read it on their own and learn it on their own. I find that extremely difficult to believe.
EM, to be honest with you, bro, that's not really that uncommon, man. Because there was a report that came out even if you remember when when Ocho Cinco left Cincinnati and went to New England, he's a veteran receiver and he couldn't learn the playbook.
Yeah.
And he tried.
But again, that's on Chad Ochocinco. That's not on Bill Belichick. That's not on.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just speaking to the complexity of what the scheme was, bro. Like it's just almost.
But again, obviously, that particular scheme has had success in this league because not only in New England, but it's several teams that deploy that have had success with that same system. So and this is where I'm going with my point as far as placing 100% of the blame on Chad O'Shea. Okay? In terms of the young players not getting up to speed and as far as the playbook is concerned and learning and digesting that information. I just think, bro, at the end of the day, and I agree with O'Shea in that regard. At the end of the day, bro, those players need to be held accountable. They are professionals. They are getting paid millions of dollars to conduct yourself in the utmost of professionalism. And it starts with learning whatever scheme, learning a playbook that you are issued. So as far as I don't think we should sit up here. I don't think we should just sit up here and just kill and kill Chad O'Shea, bro. I agree with him to some degree. Now, if he was just
but if you read the report, if you read the report, it wasn't just rookies having problems with it; it was veterans, and it actually specifically said Fitzpatrick had no problem with it because he picked it up really quickly because he has 17 years of experience. He's been through so many offenses. But I think But from what, if you understand, it wasn't just rookies. Like that's why BallGame made the point of Ochocinco. Like apparently with the Dolphins, also some of our veterans were having problems with it. So I get that's where teaching comes in. Where if it's that complex and that complicated, there's going to be questions from players of, okay, coach, you need to break this down for me so I understand it a bit more. Just because I don't see, and you should be more. See, another thing is you shouldn't be coaching. Yeah, exactly. Because and not instead of passing the buck, because if you're more open to coaching and teaching, you're going to get more success from your offense, and that is going to make you as a coordinator look a whole hell of a lot better and fast track your way to being a head coach in a couple of years.
I'm gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you one, EM.
And see, I understand that.
You're lagging, EM.
Yeah, you're lagging, bro.
I'm trying to defend Chad O'Shea. Okay, can you hear me now?
I think. Listen, and unfortunately, I know where you're going with this. Unfortunately, in the NFL, man, just like in the NBA, man, if a coach has been deemed not to be doing exactly what's needed in the best interest of the players hold responsibility as well, but the coach is probably going to more than likely be replaced with someone that can do that job a lot better. I preface this whole. I mean, I look at this whole situation very similarly to you have a child, right? And say for all of 7 to 8 years of school, this child has been doing nothing but regular math, right? So then all of a sudden, the child hits 8th grade, and then the child is told that they have to go into, without pre-algebra, into algebra. Some level of tutoring, no matter what you provide, man, it's just going to be a little too much for that child.
I agree. BallGame.
So they needed a teacher, right? Because Chad O'Shea was presenting the information, but he couldn't teach it down to at their level so that they could digest enough of it to be successful in it. And to some degree, you know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The players have a responsibility as well, bro. Like everybody is jointly responsible for a piece of that. But the whole concept is that even though he was the offensive coordinator, he's still supposed to be a coach, a teacher of the information that you want them to digest. And he just didn't do a good job of teaching.
I think what I saw with his shortcomings, Chad O'Shea's shortcut to me was, especially early on the first 7 games of the season, was his lack of in-game adjustments to what the defense was throwing at him. And I think that was the number one you can attribute. I mean, that was the number one reason why we struggled so much.
I know what I mean? And I said this before, from what I understood, and this wasn't from BallGame, from what I understood, the development of, or the lack thereof development they saw from Rosen also played a factor, and they put that on O'Shea because, as we all know, they had to go out, and what did they have to do? They had to go get a specific quarterback coach for Rosen because O'Shea just wasn't getting it done with the kid, bro. And whether you like Rosen or not, that looks like it's more indicative of a bad job by O'Shea than it is if Flores recognized something like that to the point where they went out and hired a coach specifically for the kid, man.
Well, I'm not here defending Chad O'Shea. I'm just saying we shouldn't just totally 100%.
I'm not doing that at all, bro. I wouldn't bash the man. I understand how hard that is. So
I just think the players need, again, those players they need to be accountable for what they can control.
Right.
If they are not understanding, tell somebody, okay? Just like you're in school. If you have a lack of understanding of something, let somebody know. And then again, if you're having trouble and you can't do it, you know what I mean? If you can't process the information, if you can't apply it on the field, hey, well, again, obviously Flores opted to get rid of the coordinator as opposed to any players.
For
that reason.
But the reason things didn't sit well with Flores though was because O'Shea said, and instead of him, this could have went a whole lot different had he said, okay, I'll look at what I'm doing wrong and I'll adjust that. But his initial response was the players ain't doing this type of thing.
No. So his attitude.
Like,
was a problem.
You've had
his arrogance.
That too. Yeah, he wouldn't back off of. He wasn't wrong. He was doing what he was supposed to do. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do, type of thing. And he had guys that's been up there in that New England system, man, for what, excess of 8-9 years. That's most of that stuff. Like them looking at the back of their hand now at this point. So it's not a whole lot. Yeah, Nico, he got the scheme is great. It just wasn't, and it's not that it wasn't good for us. I just think that he was just trying to install too much of it
too quickly. Yeah, they needed to be spoon. If it's that,
spoon feed them,
man. You got to spoon feed them. It's complicated.
For Adam Gase,
and
for 2 seasons, and then prior to that, Joe Philbin. You feel me? Like, or was it Philbin? No, it wasn't Philbin. It was
Yeah, it was Philbin.
It was Philbin. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it's like, come on, man. They gotta walk him, bro. And we rebuilding. So what we running toward?
Yeah.
I just think again, I don't necessarily like if you when you read the article, they're trying to make an indictment on the scheme, and bro, it's multiple teams that have had a high level of success implementing that exact same scheme. They just have the players that are able to digest the information and apply that information on Sundays. We might not have those guys.
I remember
what I'm saying?
I remember Andy Reid saying, when people asked him in a presser, they said, "How soon will we possibly see Pat Mahomes?" He said, "You'll see Pat when I'm comfortable with Pat understanding what I want from him out of my offense. Till then, Pat will sit." You know what I mean? And he was straightforward with it. And that was a real thing, because Pat had to digest and fully be able to regurgitate back to Andy Reid that he understood that offense. And Andy Reid has one of the most complex offenses.
That's true.
Did you see what Mahomes said this postseason? He said that it wasn't until year 2, so last year, when he started actually being able to, like, near the end of it, near the end of year 2 is when he was able to actually process and recognize disguised coverage. He started being able to do it. It took 2 years, right? So
look at Preston Williams. He said that last year as well. He said, "I had no idea what I was doing." He was just running routes. So again, where's the accountability for the player? Okay, that's on the player, bro. So who knows as to why? Obviously, Flores felt like a change was needed. Obviously, and I'm not here to debate that at all. I'm just saying we shouldn't. I'm not saying we. I'm just saying the fan bases in general. We shouldn't just read that article and think automatically Chad O'Shea was 100% of the problem. No, players got to take accountability, bro.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Players have to take accountability. Period. And what if the same situation reoccurs with Chan Gailey? What do you do then? Whose fault is it then?
Most NFL offenses, especially in the passing game, they have 3 options at every route combination and every play for the wide receivers, right? O'Shea. O'Shea had 5, bruh.
Yeah, but that's the New England team. That's why your Chad Ochocinco's, your Mohamed Sanu's, all of those failures. If you look at the track record of Bill Belichick, with the exception of Randy Moss and Julian Edelman and Wes Welker, all of these, they have had a terrible track record in terms of drafting and developing wide receivers within that scheme over the years. When you compare, the 20 years,
5 additional routes, and
it's difficult.
You got to say you had a 90. Say you had a 90 play offensive install. That's 450 route combination.
Yeah. Wow, that's ridiculous.
Wow.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that is.
But again, bro, that scheme.
Whereas 3 is like 270.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, you can't knock that, because they have built a 20-year dynasty off that's basically the same scheme. So obviously it works. You just gotta get the players that can do it.
So actually, before we get into your edge players, I just had something come through my phone and I wanted to bring it up from Bleacher Report. So apparently the Dolphins are in no hurry right now to move on from Josh Rosen, And this is according to Mike Girardi of NFL Network. And he basically said teams called the Miami Dolphins about Rosen's availability this offseason, and thus far the Dolphins are in no hurry to trade him. So this clearly looks like they are lining up for what, a pretty big quarterback battle.
Yeah, Tua probably will win it, but he got to compete with somebody.
You don't think Fitzpatrick because of his 5 years?
Not this year, next year.
Oh, you think? See, the thing is that where I'm kind of running into it isn't what next year would be his 4th year with the 5th-year option, right?
Pick up the 5th-year option. It's going to be cheap.
Yeah.
So, well, it looks like to me. Well, to be honest with you, I know we all know how I feel about Rosen as a player, but the smart play from a Dolphins perspective is to hang on to him. To be honest with you, that's the smart move, because if you bring him, if you keep him, hang on to him, and who knows, he might show improvement. Anything from now on, anything positive about Josh Rosen that goes along, that helps his trade value. So the smart play from the Miami Dolphins, bro, at this stage is to hang on to him. But I think at some point they're gonna pull the trigger on him. At some point this offseason, I don't think he sees the field. Yeah, perhaps. I don't see him seeing the field this year, especially on Sundays. He might get preseason. He might get preseason is where he might get preseason. He might get preseason work, but anything beyond that, bro.
They'll be giving him a quarter.
Who's that?
Rosen?
Oh yeah.
They'll be giving him in preseason. He'll be getting a quarter because Fitzpatrick's going to be chilling because he has 5 years experience in the Chan Gailey offense. So it just needs for him to be okay. I'll go out and I'll run a couple drives. Then you let Rosen, Tua, and Ruddick get the rest of the work for each game. Basically, that's what if Tua's healthy enough.
And in addition, in like you just said, Tua's health. You know what I mean? Just let Tua get as healthy as he possibly can get.
We don't have any reason to rush that kid on the field, man.
No. As bad as I want to see him, no. It's all posturing to me. What this article is, what this article says, it's all posturing by the Dolphins, and it's smart play. So, but again, Rosen might come in and have a Kurt Warner-like season. It's highly unlikely, but it's a chance. You know what I mean? He might. We'll see.
All right, we're good to go. Let's get into your edge evaluations of Van Noy, Ogbah, and Lawson.
Yes, sir. Well, we all know what happened as we're sitting here today. We know what transpired in free agency and a draft, and my primary focus will be to highlight the players that we acquired through free agency, as well as the Dolphins doubling down in the draft in the 5th round and selecting those 2 players. And I'm going to highlight their skill set and articulate why I think they were prioritized by the Miami Dolphins. So with that being said, all right, here we go. All right, the 2019 Miami Dolphins were 32nd in the NFL in total defense, and they ranked 27th against the run. Transitioning into the 2020 offseason, based off the additions that were made to our team through free agency as well as the 2020 NFL draft, it's obvious that the Miami Dolphins front office felt a significant upgrade was needed on all 3 levels of our defense. But we're just talking about the front 7 players today. But the Dolphins were aggressive throughout free agency, acquiring edge players Shaq Lawson and Emmanuel Ogbah, as well as the multi-dimensional linebacker Kyle Van Noy. The Dolphins opted to double down on the 2020 NFL draft and select Boise State standout defensive end / outside linebacker Curtis Weaver, as well as Jason Strobridge from the University of North Carolina. After my extensive film study on the aforementioned players, it's obvious what the preference was of the Miami Dolphins from the athletic profile of these players, as well as the skill set and technique that they make a priority for the defensive linemen. The skill set or technique of choice that the Miami Dolphins prioritize Within this multiple formational deployment are what is referred to as two-gap principles. Here is a brief synopsis of what exactly is the definition of the aforementioned technique. Size, strength, and intelligence are the requisite traits that generally referred to I can't even talk straight. Size, strength, technique are the requisite traits that generally is preferred in two-gap concepts. To successfully apply this technique, players need to be able to consistently shoot their hands into an offensive tackle's chest, stand him up or stack him, disengage his block, and move to either side of him to respond appropriately to the offensive deployment. This technique is applicable against the run and the pass. The player needs to exhibit good footwork and ideal strength in their upper body and hands. Brian Flores has consistently stated that having good strength in their hands or being heavy-handed, as well as having good upper body strength, are the requisite traits that are ideal for the deployment of these applications. Hand placement, good footwork is paramount when deploying this technique. The players need to be intelligent. They need to be able to consistently keep their eye level parallel with the line of scrimmage at the point of engagement to diagnose and get an accurate read on what the offense is doing. These players don't necessarily need to be extremely quick or athletic. Size, strength, and intelligence are the requisite traits that are preferred. The combined average weight of all the players that we acquired is 270.5 pounds. The priority seems to be heavy, dense players. The objective of the lineman is to physically overwhelm linemen with power, heavy-handed hand placement. This team wants to bully opposing offensive lines up front. Although if a player has additional athletic traits such as extreme quickness and athleticism, this definitely is a bonus to have. The addition of Emmanuel Ogbah is an example of a player that exhibits both traits, which is why he's my favorite of all the offseason edge player additions, because he has the ability to consistently win with the requisite power as well as athleticism. With all of these additions that we made in the offseason, according to Pro Football Focus, they have us number one in terms of the team that improved itself the most defensively in the offseason. Let's see here. Okay. With the high level of multiplicity of the aforementioned players' skill sets, the ability to play inside or outside, my anticipation for the 2020 season is that the Miami Dolphins will be one of the most diverse teams in terms of their personnel and formational deployment. Okay, the first player that brings me to my favorite player we signed in free agency. That would be Mr. Emmanuel Ogbah. This kid is 6'4", 6'5", 275 pounds. He was drafted in the second round, 32nd overall by the Cleveland Browns. He played last season with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he played 9 games. He had 5.5 sacks, 23 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble. Okay, but he got hurt in that he was placed on injured reserve in that 9th game because of a torn pectoral muscle, I believe. The second player we selected.
I would just want to add for you on the Emmanuel Ogbah. So Ogbah, besides the 6 sacks, he also had 17 hurries and he had 27 total pressures. And like you said, he only played 10 games last year, right? He got hurt in the 10th game.
Exactly.
So 27 pressures. I mean, the guy had an overall defensive grade last year of 70.1. So.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts, BallGame, on Emmanuel Ogbah?
I actually had a wish list. So, listen, man, when we think alike, man, I don't have no problem acknowledging it. I definitely thought he was a guy that if we could have got our hands on him, we could get him, and I'm glad they went and got him. I like the fact that he's got a level of violence to him also that you see a lot of guys. He's violent, but he's controlled with it. So when he engages with a lineman, man, a lot of times they're flustered. They don't really know what to do because he's so and he fast. So you got all this power. You got all this power and hand and precision hand placement being coming at you, but it's coming at you with speed and agility.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like him too.
Yeah, he
can move for a big man.
He's an elite athlete. 200. Yeah. Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, he tested his 40-yard dash time, and when the year he came out at the combine was 4.63 for a guy that's 6'5", 275 pounds. That's elite athlete. Yeah. That's elite athleticism. In addition to that electricity in his hands. So that's my favorite. Because I think we're just scratching the surface at this kid's potential, his overall potential within this scheme, bro.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
Next we have Shaq Lawson. Shaq Lawson, 6'3", 272 pounds. He played at Clemson, so he's got that familiarity with our defensive line coach. He was picked in round 1, pick number 19 by the Buffalo Bills. Okay, again, look at the common theme.
And he ran a 4.7.
Players,
size.
Yeah, he ran a 4.7 as well. Yeah. So he's got he's an elite. He's a very good athlete as well. Again, look at the common thing between these two players: heavy, powerful players that are heavy-handed, that are good, that are excellent in hand placement. And we have a couple of visual illustrations that we're going to get to here shortly. But yeah, I'm extremely high on this kid. Last year we had to sit through that season of consistently getting gashed on the perimeter in the run game. I think with the addition of these two players, as well as Kyle Van Noy, and as well as the two players we selected in the with Curtis Weaver and Jay Strobridge, I think I'm looking for our run defense to be vastly improved, especially from the edge position.
Yeah, I don't think Strobridge and Weaver can learn from two better guys, man. Based on the contracts, I think the contracts suggest really and truthfully that these guys are here to perform, but at the same time teach. And I think I know without a shadow of a doubt that Ogbah and Lawson have never, under research, they've never been selfish guys. Always willing to help teammates, consummate teammates. So them having the young guys behind them to learn from is just going to probably endure them even more to the process of wanting this team to succeed. So, I mean, I think it's a landmine. I mean, we hit a gold mine, man, getting these two guys. Yeah. Especially considering the guys that we have behind them that we drafted. And then you got Van Ginkel. All these guys going to be able to benefit from these guys because these guys are consummate pros, man.
Another thing too is, I just talked about how Ogbah had 27 pressures in basically 9.5 games with 17 hurries. Shaq Lawson had 40 pressures last year and he had 19 hurries. The only thing that kind of does stand out to me, he had tackling issues last year. He only had 20 tackles and he missed 11. But the one thing I will say that really stands out is, guys, he had 25 stops. So if people don't know what a stop is considered, that's a defensive stop where a tackle constitutes a failure for the offense. And he had more defensive stops than he had tackles last year. That's kind of crazy. Like when you actually break it down, I mean, 25
like they ran at him. That's essentially saying basically they ran at him and he just stonewalled the play.
And look at Ogbah in 9.5 games last year. Yeah, he had 22 tackles, but he had 21 defensive stops. So another guy who was impacting offensive plays and basically causing failure right away from his engagement, right? And like you said, BallGame, Shaq, Lawson, and Ogbah, I really think when you're talking about contracts, Ogbah fits that. He's only got a 2-year contract. I think it's the player because he knows if he stays healthy,
he can play longer.
He's going to be in for a payday for 2 years because I see him as being one of the most successful guys in what we're going to deploy.
Right.
And see, I look at these guys. When I look at these guys and I evaluate them, I think again they're decent to good. What they've shown up to this point, and they might come in next year and be significantly better in terms of impacting the quarterback on an individual basis. You know, them by themselves as opposed to having to scheme them open so much.
Right.
But I think why they were prioritized is because of they're so good at setting the edge and they're so good in the run game. Because again, if you look at how the Miami Dolphins have constructed this roster, big, physical, powerful guys to choke out the run game, okay? And then you look at the additions they've made to the secondary, okay? Because I think the pressure is. I fully anticipate Miami to be one of the top 3 teams in terms of bringing pressure next year. I mean, with the man coverage on the back end, they'd be crazy not to in obvious passing downs. They should be. And if you're going by, you know, what New England has traditionally done, they've been one of the more higher pressure teams in terms of bringing extra people in the NFL over the years. So you can see they want to choke out the run game, minimize teams on first and second down, and they want to bring in and they want to bring they want to implement as many defensive backs on the field, in particular Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, as well as Noah Igbenogany. They want to get them on the field as much as possible. And to me, that's the smart way to be from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that works out. Matchups.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Make the other teams athletes beat you.
Yep. So
I think your boy going to safety though.
Who was that, Needham?
Yeah, man.
He might. I
think that's a perfect spot for him though.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, because of that long speed of his is ridiculous, and his transitions. I told you, I mentioned this on TD's stream earlier today. I told people about our back and forth about Needham, but after looking at him and watching him over the course of the season and everything, I can see him being included as a guy that they want to try to give a shot back there on that perch, man, because he got a nose for the ball. His transition in the back pedal and his eyes and his perfect, bro. So
he can tackle, he can blitz.
Yeah,
he can tackle, he can blitz, he can do all the things you require a safety to do.
And if they put him back there, then
that's definitely.
Then you essentially put all your premier athletes then at that point on the field, and you don't have to struggle to fight to figure out where you're gonna play Noah. Noah can play inside at the slot, and then you got Rowe at the strong safety, you got Needham at free safety, and you got Jones and Howard on the edge. Man, that's speed and athleticism everywhere. You can match up with anybody.
Yeah,
not a team in the league at that point that you can't match up with and win them matchups. That's scary.
I definitely think that again. I definitely think that that's the objective for the 2020 in 2020. I think that to get those guys on the field at some capacity as often as possible is the objective. But again, you can't do that if you don't address the run game up front. If you don't minimize teams on first and second.
Gotta stop the run. Gotta stop.
With the third guy we got, this particular player, I don't think Miami.
You called him too. Let's preface it with you literally called this months before free agency that we were going to get this guy.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I look at it's Kyle Van Noy. Obviously, we all know we acquired him from the New England Patriots. Obviously, the familiarity with the scheme with Brian Flores personally. We all know the background between about the relationship between Kyle Van Noy and Brian Flores. I look at Kyle Van Noy, us selecting him. A lot of people thought primarily he was going to be an edge player. He was going to be played primarily on the edge. I don't necessarily think that will be the approach of the Miami Dolphins in terms of implementing him in his defense. I think he's going to be the majority of his snaps will be played off the ball on the interior next to Raekwon McMillan. I think that's the ideal, especially in obvious run situations on first and second down. And although Kyle Van Noy, I mean, he's a multi-dimensional player, which means he can do several things. He's very good at a lot of things, pretty much everything that you ask a front seven player to do. I think his coverage in terms of his coverage matched up with opposing like the better tight ends in the league is kind of he's kind of lacking in that department. Like when
he had a 76.1 coverage grade though.
Yeah, I'm talking about against the better tight ends. Your Travis Kelce of the world. But that's not a knock on him because all linebackers struggle in coverage against him. So I'm nitpicking at this point. But what I'm saying is
he was only targeted. He was only targeted once when they played KC in Week 14 too, though.
It was only once.
Yeah. He was targeted once for one reception for 20 yards.
It might have been somebody because I remember. It might not have been Travis Kelce then. It was some other tight end that was giving him the
most times he was targeted in a game this year was against us in Week 17. He was targeted twice. But other than that, he was only targeted 11 times this year.
What about last year? You looked at it from last year? It was some tight end that was giving him the blues.
Last year he was targeted 56 times, and the year before he was targeted 44, and the year before that he was targeted 51.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it might have been last year when whoever that tight end was that gave him the blue. But anyway, I'm nitpicking at this point. I don't think he'll be deployed in that manner anyway, for the most part. But yeah, this kid, I think, like you said, like you talked about. Shaq, Lawson, and Emmanuel Ogbah being mentors for the young guys. This guy here is the ideal mentor for your Van Ginkels of the world, your Vince Beagles of the world. Even if they opt to keep Jerome Baker, your Jerome Bakers, your Raekwon McMillan, in terms of getting everybody lined up, getting everybody up on the same page. With the addition of him, primarily, I think we'll see a lot less of. You remember all the breakdowns we saw last year? At times, guys running wide open, missed assignments, lack of communication. Yeah. I think with the addition of this guy, with this player in the front seven, I think those kind of plays that we saw last year will be drastically minimized. Right. So, we can't talk enough about how tough this kid is. He's productive. He had 41 solo tackles last year. He had 6.5 sacks, three forced fumbles. Ideal scheme fit. And
he also had 60 total pressures. He had 43 hurries. And another thing is, too, he had 42 tackles, but he only missed 6. So he's a sure tackler.
Sure tackler.
He had an 84.2 overall defensive grade with an 83.7 run defense grade,
Crazy.
A 72.1 pass rush grade, and a 76.1 coverage grade.
Crazy.
We can't really call him a kid though. He's 29.
Yeah, he's
grown man.
Yeah. He younger than me, so he's younger than me, not by much, but he's younger than me. So, yeah. I loving this edition, bro. Love him. But so Reason just highlighted his numbers, that his rankings, the numbers that the productivity that he put up last year. Now, with that being said, BallGame, especially how highly rated he is against the run, you really think where's Jerome Baker gonna be able to get on the field, bro?
Exotics, man. Third down, man.
You really think he's gonna be able to get on the field now? Come on.
Yeah, third down, pass cover. Him and Kruger Hill, man. I mean, if they do it the right way.
I hear you.
I hear you. Because Kyle and you go to the 2-4-5. That's gonna bring in the 2-4. If they run 2-4-5 or they run anything 2-3-6, something like that, bro. He'll probably be in the middle. Van Noy will be in the middle, but them two guys flanking him gonna be that speed of Kruger Hill and Jerome Baker, bro. Like they have the capabilities of being able to line up with slots.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I look at in terms of I hear you. I look at in terms of Jerome Baker. It's just with the additions they made in the offseason, I just think they have too many players that can do what Jerome Baker can give. They can basically give you what he gives you. You know what I mean? Without, sacrificing a good portion of your snap count. You know what I mean? They've got specialists that can cover. They've got, safeties that you can deploy in a nickel and dime linebacker situation, and they can cover a heck of a lot better. Safeties can actually cover, tight ends as well as slot receivers. Jerome Baker can't cover a slot receiver. So that all of that in addition to his suspect at best ability to in the run game, I just think his days are numbered as well.
Yeah, anyway, I don't know. I don't know if you caught our I believe it was our last show ball game where we got into Jerome Baker's coverage stats, and this year in coverage, he was a disaster, bro. When you actually go into the analytics, I mean, it was not a good situation. I mean, the guy was targeted 64 times and he gave up 50 receptions. He gave up a 78.1 reception percentage, but he also gave up a 106.8 passer rating against. And when you look at it on those 50 receptions allowed, he gave up a total of 276 yards after the catch. So when you actually this year, his coverage dipped because he wasn't in that wide 9-4-3 that he's so used to. And you could tell even the strengths of his game this year. Well, you saw it on film too, but I mean, they were kind of suffering because at times it looked like he was, I don't want to use the word out of position, so I use the word.
It was a lot of times.
Yeah, but I want to use the word. It looked like he wasn't as comfortable with his responsibilities and what he was being asked to do as we had seen in years past. You know what I mean? The athleticism is no question. I mean, if he can adapt to the scheme and learn the scheme, there's no way we'll move him because of
his thing right now. I follow his IG and whatnot. He's working on putting on weight,
which is what he needed to do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, trying to get up to.
He's working on what ball game?
Putting on weight.
He's working on weight.
That's one of the biggest things he's working on in the offseason.
I can hear you chopping up, but
the rest he said
he graded out that bad in coverage, and that dude is covering. He graded out that bad in coverage, and he's covering, and his responsibilities were to the tight end and the running back out of the flat. So you really think that dude can cover wide receivers? No, I just don't see it. But
I don't take nothing away from him because with all that fluctuation and all the stuff that Graham had going on, trying to figure out units and all that stuff, I know without a shadow of a doubt that when I first took over years as the defensive coordinator, man, I didn't grade my kids. I didn't harshly grade them either because I knew that they were learning something new. And if they made mistakes, I took those mistakes on for myself because it was something that I didn't teach properly. You know what I mean? I mean, good coaches can identify. I mean, I think that's why, if you look at it, that's why Flores always had Jerome Baker real close to him too, always talking to him. You know what I mean? Because they were asking him to do a lot of stuff that was just completely foreign to him. I ain't gonna make an excuse for him because those numbers that you just gave, those were abysmal numbers. Yes, does he have a lot of room to grow? Yeah.
Yeah, but my question would be, and I can't find my question would be, was his coverage? I get with the whole kind of out of place with the scheme, but another thing was we didn't really have an effective pass rush. So my question is, how long was he covering for?
Everybody.
You know what I mean?
I think everybody's numbers suffered last year as a result of not having no pass rush, bro. Especially if you're talking linebackers and safeties and corners. I mean, we couldn't get nobody. We standing at the wall. I mean, teams is walling us off, man. They had 1,000, 2,000. At some point, the stuff breaking down. Guys was running routes, running free. You can only touch a receiver so much. You know what I mean? You can only hold him so long. You know what I mean? But does he have to get better? Yeah, he got to get better. But I still believe that, what I'm saying, if anybody can make a job or find somewhere to fit him in, it'll be Flores before they get rid of him.
It's because it's athleticism for his.
Yeah, man.
If he can gain that 10, 15 pounds and keep that athleticism and that speed and continue to learn, then he probably will have a place.
Well, maybe Kruger Hill will be his replacement then. I mean, but you got a guy that's naturally that much heavier. Jerome got to put on weight. Kruger Hill actually is already 245, 247,
and a hell of a lot faster as well.
And didn't Flores had a hand in Kruger Hill getting drafted, right?
Yeah,
he did. He did in the fifth round. In the fifth round when he was in New England, scouted him.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Landon Thomas as well. We got him as well from New England.
Oh yeah,
signed him as well. Another middle linebacker.
The fullback, huh?
Yeah.
It's crowded, bro. Crowded. Sorry, I didn't mean to make this about Jerome Baker. I was trying to be funny about him because I know that's your boy and everything. But
hey man, it is what it is, bro.
So
they all got to earn the right to still be there.
With that being said, we also yeah. So we all know in the 5th round we selected the Boise State standout outside linebacker / defensive end Curtis Weaver, 6'3", 265 pounds. Okay, he's picked in the 5th round, pick number 164. Again, another player, another big physical player. Okay, so you see the continued the consistency with the athletic profile. Okay, and one thing about this kid, if you watch his tape, his ability to win consistently with his hands. I mean, that is already there. That is from that standpoint, very little has to be taught to him within his defense. I mean, his hand placement is already next level in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And because he's not an overly athletic player, again, he's out of that build of a Shaq Lawson, out of that mold of a Shaq Lawson type player. If you look at him, but he's not an overly athletic player, but he wins consistently with his hands up front, heavy hands, his hand placement, his arm extension, how he's able to stack offensive linemen and and adjust accordingly to what the offense is doing. Again, 2-gap principles. Again, common themes, scheme fit, the direction that the Miami Dolphins chose to go in this year's draft as well as free agency. Ideal scheme fit, and I'm excited about him as well. I don't know if he'll be able to. I don't know how much. I think he'll be able to play, but the question is just how much, because it's so much. I mean, you're talking about Ogbah, you're talking about Lawson, you're talking about Van Ginkel. That in addition to, the log jam we have at linebacker as a whole. Then you got Van Noy, he can play the edge in a lot of instances. So I don't know I just don't know how much playing. I think he will be deployed at some point, but I'm just a little cloudy on how much he will play.
Man, if we ran a 3-4 bear
this season, but I'm looking for. Yeah. So again, another scheme fit player. Y'all thoughts on Curtis Weaver? I already know how you feel, Reason. What you think, BallGame?
I had him on my list, so I was amazed that he actually dropped as far as he did in the draft. But I mean, people.
Yeah, I think it was the combine, right?
A lot of people felt that way.
Combine probably, but I value the tape, man. The game tape matter more to me than going out there in them ridiculous shorts and t-shirts and running around. But sure. You know what I'm saying? Like when the lights is on and that boy got some, he got to get the way he got to get to in a game situation. He get there. He do what he's supposed to do. That's what matters more to me. The tape. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we were able to get him and got him when we got him, that's a steal. You know what I'm saying? And he's again in a really good place in terms of 2 guys in front of him that he can actually take his time and learn from properly what's expected of him. You know what I mean? So when his time actually does come, he can go out there and perform at the highest level. There's no real rush for him to go out and try to be Superman. They don't have to rush him into anything, and he's cheap. Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
And I mean, you talk about this guy, like when you talk about, I know people aren't big fans because he does have kind of a weird body shape, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, man, he's got amazing balance and body control, and he can play at any angle or body position. And you talk about his heavy hands. Let me ask you this, guys, because I know you guys watched tape on this guy. I didn't see it. I don't know, maybe I missed something, but I didn't see once. Maybe you guys did. Offensive linemen with punch moves, they didn't even phase him. They didn't even get close to his body, bro. He just swatted them away and when you saw his moves, you can tell he's kind of not really, how do I say this? He's not really like, you can tell like pre-game, he's not really scheming towards how he's going to attack his offensive line, because when you watched him, every time he played a different team, he was attacking the offensive lineman differently and based on what he was seeing in the game. And another thing is when you saw Boise didn't use him off tackle, and when they kicked him inside, he was still being effective. I mean, the guy had a 22.9 pass rush win rate, which was the second in the whole draft behind only Chase Young, I believe, bro. And I mean, that wasn't just a one-year thing. He had back-to-back dominant pass rush seasons. And I get that people don't like the athleticism they saw or what they saw at the combine, but we talk about players where, you know, we talked about Gladney ball game. Gladney looked faster on tape than what he did at the combine. We always talk about that. People play at different speeds. Well, it's the same with him. He shows athleticism on tape that you didn't see in the combine, even for a man his size, right? And I know a lot of his production came from specifically the two-hand swat, but you look at this guy, man. I mean, if he's taught a little bit on how to have better technique against double teams, he's good. This guy, he could be wide, you know. And
still, man.
Yeah, he could do our strength and conditioning ball game. He shed some weight.
Yeah,
he could be the reason why. If Ogbah has a great 2 years, and we say, you know what, we don't want to pay you, Curtis Weaver could be that guy if he's conditioned properly, because he's going to be in that Florida fund. So he's going to get better condition. He's got to shed some pounds. He could be that guy that eventually takes Ogbah's spot on the edge in 2 years.
Right.
I think that's his biggest obstacle, you know, transition to the NFL is getting his transforming his body. I think just like Nick Needham last year when you know,
he's still a kid.
I've heard him say, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm not saying, but he definitely, because there's question marks about his dedication to his body. You know, there's whispers of that, but he's coming to the right place, like you said, with Flores. But if he does that, again, I think that's his. If you're talking about his technique, he's from a technique standpoint, he's one of the more refined rookies that I've seen. You know, pass rushers that I've seen in some years, bro. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna put him on a level of the Bosa, of Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. But this kid's hand placement, I'm telling you, you can't teach that. A lot of that you cannot teach. It's just a natural God-given ability. I'm telling you. So if he gets his body right, if he transforms his body, bro.
I don't think he's done growing.
Yeah.
I don't think he's done growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you look at the way he looks, it looks like his mid torso and his buttocks reason is just waiting on his legs to catch up, and he might sprout another couple inches. And you know what I'm saying? And yeah, I don't think he's done growing yet though. I think he's smack dab in the middle of something else going to happen to him, and then from there they need to start working on transforming him a little more, because you don't want to stunt that whatever's still coming for him. Because at 6'2", 265 right now, I think he probably wind up being somewhere close to maybe 6'3.5", 272, 275. You know,
he reminds me of a lot of Derek Barnett, bro. You know, he plays a Philly now. When he came out, Derek Barnett, when he came out, that was a knock on him. He wasn't the most physically fit guy. You know, they questioned his dedication as far as taking care of his body. But the kid had technique, damn near flawless technique. And he's been a productive player as a rotational player for the for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I see a lot of Curtis Weaver in his
and another reason
game as well.
Why there's a lot of upside with Curtis Weaver. Okay, when you got guys coming out of freshmen, you want them to take a leap in their sophomore season. When you got guys, you know how it is coming out of sophomore, you want them to take that leap in junior. He took that leap in his junior season in run defense that he hadn't shown in his sophomore and his freshman year, right? And I think that's another thing people are sleeping on. People see the 15 sacks this year, the 12 sacks the year before. They see the 31 hurries this year, the 31 hurries the year before, but they don't realize how effective he was this year in run defense, bro. So I think a lot of people had him as a first-round projection, and the fact we got him in the 5th round, this guy, if he gets his body, oh man, this could be the steal of the draft.
Still could be. Yeah, I'm very excited about this kid. Very, very excited. So yeah, let's go to the reason. Let's pull up the we have a couple of
clips,
visuals for everybody. We have one of Emmanuel Ogbah as well as Kyle Van Noy, and I kind of want the everybody in the comment section, everybody that's viewing, to see to have a visual of what we mean by a player deploying these 2-gap techniques.
And then after this, after we go through these videos, guys, I'm going to ask BallGame and I'm going to ask Yem in terms of, I know we ran a lot of bear last year, 3-4. I want to say off the schemes we ran last year, I want to ask these guys how they feel these additions are going to improve how we deploy those schemes this year. But what did you want to start with? Did you want to start with Van Noy or Ogbah?
Yeah, I'm going to start with Kyle Van Noy because his is textbook.
So, guys, this is easy film. You guys can find this film on all 22. It's the coach's film. So you want to start with who? Sorry, brother?
Kyle Van Noy.
Okay. So right here we have an example of Kyle Van Noy setting the edge. So
that looks like a 4-5 to me.
So
yeah,
we'll run through. Did you want me to go through frame by frame, Em?
Well, you can run it, and then the second time you can kind of slow it down and go frame by frame.
Okay, so guys, can you see my cursor? Can you see my cursor? I don't know because I'm not really looking. So right now,
that is a 2-4-5 formation.
And I am highlighting right now, guys, with my cursor where Van Noy is lined up.
No, Van Noy is all the way out to the right.
It's right here. Sorry, it's right here.
Right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Left outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
go ahead and play it.
I'm highlighting him for you guys. You saw him beat the tackle and wrap. He's beating he's up against the tight end. Look at his hands.
He's on the tight end.
Yeah. But what he did in this clip, the tight end's job is to actually get across his face and seal him inside. What Van Noy did was took a step, stabbed with his inside arm into the chest of the tight end and kept his outside arm free so that he could take his footing. If you watch him with the hop step, that allows him to get his body frame around the outside and turn the tight end so the tight end can't get any leverage on him. So now they got to go through him and the tight end on the edge, and he's got his outside arm free to make engagement and slow up the running back.
Yeah. And that free arm ball game,
and
him slowing him up, that allows the help to get there and finish the playoff.
Yeah. Look at him.
Yeah.
If you look at the point right there, all of that is not possible if this kid is not able to stack that tight end like that and manipulate the look.
He actually stood him up.
Point of engagement. Yeah, exactly. Look at the point of engagement. The eyes parallel.
Yeah.
Look at the eyes parallel with the lattice.
He shifted his body weight. His eyes got his head around. He got if you watch him, he got his head to the outside shoulder of the tight end so that he can see what's coming. And now once the head goes, the body will follow around the outside. So now he's got the outside leverage and can't be turned inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's textbook 2-gap principles for everybody out there in the comment section. Textbook.
Got him high on the pad level to stop him, right, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right beneath the neck.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're right, ball game. I mean, once he stands up that tight end, it's over. The tight end's lost right when he stood up
tight
here.
end can't get across his face. And what's preventing him from being able to, if you look at his hand, his outside hand was the closest hand to us right now is actually taking the outside arm of the tight end and pushing and conditioning inside so he can turn the tight end to him.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in control of manipulating the tight end.
Exactly. And all of that is not
Right,
possible.
Look at the leverage.
He didn't allow the tight end to get his arms. The tight end can get his arms outside of his frame. He can control him.
Mhm.
But he didn't allow him to get his outside arm outside of his. So now he's got control.
Yeah.
And it's not possible if he's not winning at the point. If his hand placement isn't technique, if you don't have those heavy hands, and if you don't have that upper body strength, that this play right here is not possible at all. How many times do we see?
Jason Witten needs to do a better job, bro. Like, that's awful.
How many times do we see Taco Charlton and your Charles Harrison of the world just get totally washed out in this exact same scenario?
Yeah, they let guys get they allow guys to get into their frame, man.
Exactly. And that's all. And whoever wins the leverage game up front, that's what the game in the trenches, that's what the game is all about, winning leverage, period. Right. You know, if you look at, again, to bring up Raekwon, I know Raekwon Davis is not an edge player, but look at go put on, I advise everyone, it's a real treat to see, especially if you're a fan of trench play. Go put Raekwon Davis's film on and look at how good this kid is in deploying these techniques. I mean, it is flawless. So again, look, it's a common thing amongst all of these players, you know, who we targeted and we prioritized this offseason. All of them excel deploying these concepts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just watching it because, I mean, you see, because guys, this is my first time actually watching it. These are links that EM found. I mean, look at right there where I froze it. Witten's totally stand up and look at Van Noy's knees and his body. He's totally, it's over, man. Like, it's over. Like the leverage game, like Witten wasn't even a challenge in the leverage game, especially with what you pointed out all game, with him moving the arm inside. Oh my God, he's got body leverage, and now he's got arm leverage on.
This is what they mean by setting the edge.
Yeah,
this is the textbook definition of setting the edge. So anybody that might be a little when they hear that terminology, and they might not have a high level understanding of what they might mean by that. This is a perfect illustration of what they mean. Setting the edge.
Yeah. And if you notice, the Mike had an opportunity to run free. He was pretty much untouched.
Yeah.
To the backfield because the nose occupied two people.
Yeah, they double teamed. They double teamed, right?
Him and freed up the back because the tight end. I don't understand why they would actually even think that would work though, because the tight end against the edge player, he's got a long, and especially where Van Noy was lined up at. He'd have to take 3 steps just to get across his face to turn him.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely wasn't gonna happen. Yeah. But hey, that's textbook, like you said, EM. It's textbook.
And what's crazy is too with that free mic, it looks like if you look at the mic reaches out, it looks like Ezekiel would have beat the mic if Van Noy didn't engage. If you watch it again, look at he reaches out, he missed him, and if Van Noy didn't engage, it would have been on the corner on the
being able to keep that outside arm free, man.
Yeah, that was ball game. That's what you pointed out. Extending that right arm of Witten inside and allowing that
right arm and kept that left arm from being able to be tucked inside. Because if Witten had been able to get either his foot across the face of Van Noy or get that outside arm of Van Noy, which was his left arm inside, it would have been a wrap.
I mean, that highlights not just him winning in the leverage, but doesn't that show fantastic technique too, ball game?
It's flawless.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Flawless.
Yeah. All right. So do you want to get into the Ogbah?
Yeah. Bring up Emmanuel Ogbah as well.
What's going on, Elder? How you doing tonight, brother?
What's going on, Bruce Jones?
Yeah, man.
What's good, homie? I am so excited about this.
I love watching cutups, man.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'll pause it here.
Right,
so guys,
we're 4-3. So this is a 4-3. This is a 4-3. 4-3 normal. This is 4-3 normal right here. 4-3 normal set where they got, you know what I'm saying? You got your what formation they're in. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6-man line, tight end. So this is basically an I. Probably a.
I think this I think this might be a nickel. I think this might be a nickel formation ball game.
No, they got 3 linebackers.
Is it? Okay, I see. Okay, there's number 54. Okay, you're right.
Yeah. So
yeah,
And
It's a
Ogbah's
4-3
over here,
base.
guys. He's
4-3
over on.
base.
He's on your right side.
yeah. So Ogbah's. So Ogbah's.
I'm highlighting here. Yeah, he's in front of 54. He's in front of the linebacker.
Okay, go ahead, Reed. Let me watch it first. What's going on here?
Just pushes that tackle back. Hey, like just pushes the pocket back.
Look at the hand placement. Look at the power that he has in his hands.
Yeah, his job was his job. His job in this set was more so containment and crashing everything back down inside so the linebackers could eat. Because if you watch what the strong side defensive tackle does, he essentially occupies the center. I think it was 64, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get across the center. So now he's back in position to actually even make the tackle, which is crazy because Ogbah did such a good job on the he did such a good job on the left tackle that the defensive tackle had time to get over there and actually get into the run lane too. But they had the advantage. If you look at it, they had the advantage minus the Mike linebacker. They had numbers because they had a wide receiver in the backfield too. Look at it, 19. So you got
slow it down, Reason.
Yeah. So you got a fullback, you got the quarterback, fullback, running back, and the wide receiver in a wing set with the tight end opposite. In the so you got they got from the center over. They got 1, 2, 3, 4 with the fullback coming downhill too. So they got 4. Well, it's 4 on 4. It's even. And 64 got beat at the point of attack because they went cross face. But he actually pause it right there.
Pause it, Reason. Pause it. Look at the leverage. Look at his get off the line of scrimmage. Look, he's already won at the point.
Yeah, he already has the left tackle on skates right now.
Yeah. Yep.
The initial point. Okay, slow it down. Can you play it, but slow it down?
And now he stood him up.
He's already got him stacked. It's
done.
Look, you see his eyes. You see his head. You see his head. You see his eyes and you see his head.
Shed. Now he starts
identifying where the ball carrier is.
Yep.
Shedding. Now he's starting to shed, and then he makes the play
with one arm, guys.
Now he makes the play with one arm.
Dude, this man set the edge and then kept engaging him with his eyes off of him and shedded with his eyes off him. It's just natural, and then just gobbled up the runner.
Oh, he got his head back inside. So what he did was he got into the body of the tackle, got him stood up, and then he looked to see where the ball carrier is because at that point then he had already won the leverage battle.
Yeah, you can see right here.
Now he can go cross body because the left tackle is clearly out of position. Yeah. He's gonna take a step inside to get him, and then he's gonna shed him, still have him, right? Control him with it's crazy, controlling over 300-pound dude with one arm, and then he's gonna have enough strength to get inside and make the tackle with one arm. Look at that! Why didn't they go? When he planted there, that's when he went cross body.
Yeah, it's over.
Got him over. Now I can extend and reach. Let's go get him. Boom.
And look at another thing is look at this. The tackle is the deepest guy on the field right now because that's how far
on. That's how he got him pushed in the backfield. Yep.
So much strength and like awareness,
again,
like high football IQ on that play.
Again.
The linebackers could have done a better job of filling, but they went body for body, and they did all right.
Well, their linebacking core is suspect anyway in Kansas City. So, but again, textbook definition of two gap principles. So I just kind of wanted everybody to get a visual,
even from the 4-3. Yeah, when most people think that
even from the 4-3. And exactly that technique applies to any formation, whether that be a 4-3-3-4. It could be applied in nickel and dime situations as well. Any position on the defensive line in any formation. That is the technique of choice of this coaching staff.
Right.
So let's talk about this, guys. When you're bringing in guys like Ogbah, Van Noy, and Shaq Lawson, what I know last year, let's go over. We were talking about it before we went live. Can you go over the coverages you saw us run the most last year, the sets, and then BallGame and can you guys go over how having these type of guys now deployed in those sets and those coverages, how they are going to impact the defense and make it that much better this year with what you've seen?
Yeah, like I just said, see, so many times last year when we were in different versions of a nickel or different versions of a dime, that's where a lot of teams, gashed us in the run game. But again, it was I attribute that to being the inconsistency up front in deploying these techniques, the inconsistency with Jerome Baker in particular, being able to win consistently in terms of the run game. So with the addition of these players, you see the technique, you see the requisite power, heavy hands, and hand placement and technique. You see it in these players. So when teams force us to deploy different variations of a nickel, different variations of a dime, these players, we will be much better, even if teams choose to, teams choose to run in a pass formation. These are, in theory now, on paper, our run defense should be much more improved because of these players already they consistently put on film, the consistent techniques, and as well, like we just said, the two-gap principle, that's just not applicable to a base 3-4. That is the technique of choice of this coaching staff, and they deploy it in any formation on the defensive line. So these players, again, like I said, the majority of from what I saw last year, the majority of the issues we had up front was when we were caught in nickel and dime situations. But again, and teams chose to run out of that passing formation. Right. But again, like I said, the inconsistency, it started with the inconsistency up front. That's why I think Devon Gotcha is expendable at this point, because he didn't consistently provide that anchor last year. Again, point of engagement, shedding blocks, getting out blocks and making a play, et cetera, et cetera. So with Ogbah, with Lawson, and one thing that we didn't talk about yet is their ability to kick them inside. I've seen consistent tape on Shaq Lawson as well as Emmanuel Ogbah being deployed at the 3 technique, the 5 technique, as well as being stand-up outside linebackers, in our base front. So the multiplicity that these players, in terms of their skill set, that they're going to be able to bring to us, that we're going to be able to deploy on a week-to-week basis, again, on paper, our run defense, the issues we saw last year, should be drastically minimized this year. So when we get caught like a formation, like you referenced earlier, BallGame, about the 4-2-5, the personnel grouping of a 4-2-5 is, 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. Okay, with these guys with Ogbah and Shaq Lawson, they have the size and girth again to hold up at the point if the opposing team chooses to try to run on us. You know what I mean? Right. As well as they've got their size and athleticism will be a problem on the interior for centers and guards, because they might not be more athletic than your tackle, but they definitely have an edge in terms of their athleticism matched up on a guard and center. So they're giving you if we deploy that particular formation, a 4-2-5 formation, they give you that. If you choose to kick them on the inside at the defensive tackle position, they're giving you that added athleticism as well as the ability to hold up in a run game. So again, I saw consistently on tape last year, we got caught in these nickel and dime formations, and teams opted to run on it, and they gashed us. It was crazy. So again, I can easily see, you kick Ogbah inside, you kick Shaq Lawson inside, and you can have either you got Van Noy and take your pick at any linebacker that you can put out there as the second linebacker. You can have Van Ginkel, Beagle on the outside, or Weaver and Van Ginkel. It just depends on their development, or it just depends on how Miami chooses to deploy them. But again, it gives you so much flexibility in terms of the personnel groupings and formationally. It's going to be tough for opposing offenses to deal with this defense this year, especially especially if this secondary, performs the way that we think they are.
Yeah, we could go. If it were me, man, I'd like to see a combination of Wilkins and Davis inside, with Ogbah and Lawson at the stand up in a nickel normal type of situation, and then with Kyle Van Noy and either you can even sub one of the safeties in and come into the box to play too, and go with a 4-1, 4-1-6. You know what I mean? Type of look. But what they do, man, what these guys do, based on the fact that they're supreme technicians, is they shrink the run lanes. You know what I'm saying? And it make it harder for guys to be able to gash us, which is right. What I'm saying, man, that's what happened last year a lot. We had teams 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, and then bam, they hit us with an 11-yard run because our guys just couldn't shrink the run lanes. You know what I mean? Or for lack of better, they just got out techniqued or just got outmanned at the line of scrimmage and got blowed over type of deal. So yeah, and the more I think about it, man, I don't necessarily think Godchild is I don't think Godchild has the body frame for this defense in regards to he'd be more suited for a 4-3, a strict base 4-3 team. Wilkins is a little different. You know what I'm saying? Him and Davis, they're built a little different. They have a twitch that Godchild never really had. So, you know what I mean? Can he get there? I don't know. It'll be up to Flores to figure that out. But yeah, I have to agree that he's definitely not the ideal fit for what we're trying to do.
Can I show you guys? Let me show you guys something, since we're just before we end this, because we're in the whole film mode right now. I want people to kind of see why, Raekwon Davis, kind of why we went out and got, because this was one of his better games last year, and I just happened to find this.
South Carolina game.
Yeah, and he kind of blew it. Yeah, I mean, he was a lot to handle. So there's a couple plays together in a 30-second clip package. So I mean, if you look at this kid, I mean, look at him right there. If you watch out, he was lined up on the edge right here. He's right here. He's on the left edge. Okay. Let's go through this and watch how he eats this play up. Look at that. Just boom, disengages, pushes the guy back, disengages, all over it. We got right here.
Down the line, man.
Right here again. He's outside on the left.
Stonewall.
Yeah.
Stonewall.
And then here he is.
They wanted to go inside, but
they didn't. Here he is in the zero tech. Yeah, here he is in the zero tech. Yeah. Check this one out. He's the guy in the middle, guys. Just push back. Like, he just dominated. Let's watch that again for a sec. I mean, guys, he's not every play here is about him getting to the quarterback. This is him winning battles too, right? So we'll bring it back here. He is right here, guys. I'm highlighting him with my cursor. He's right there in the middle.
Walk the center into the backfield, right?
And we'll slowly go through this. Yeah, he walks him just back there like it's nothing. All right, here's a snap.
Watch the get off.
Yeah, he just pushes him. Look at how far he's pushing him back. Look at just pushes it. Look at it. He pushed him the first.
They call that turnstile. He turnstile them. He turned them completely around.
Jeez.
Took him for a ride.
And then he got off on it. So
I just don't understand the negative evaluation that he was getting that a lot of people gave this kid. But again, they're looking through the lens of the NFL as a whole, as opposed to scheme specific.
Right.
What he'll bring to our defense.
Havoc asking,
and again, look at that diverse. Look at the diversity in this game. Lined up as a outside. I'm sorry, as a defensive end. Look at a 0 tech, 3 tech, 5 tech. So diverse, and that's a common thread amongst all the defensive players that we brought in this year. All of them can play multiple positions. With
Havoc asked the question. You see Havoc's question. Havoc asked, "Are Van Ginkel and Weaver slotted to be situational pass rushers this year?" I think personally, I think Van Ginkel, bro. To be honest with you, that's your boy. I think Van Ginkel will make more of a transition on the interior, bro. I really do, because I saw the last 3-4 games of the season last year, bro. He and Vince Beagle were taking snaps away from Jerome Baker, and obviously Raekwon McMillan was hurt, but they were playing them primarily. Yeah, they're bigger. They're bigger bodies, man. Bigger frame.
They're bigger guys. They're much better in terms of successfully taking on blocks, getting off blocks, and making plays in a run game.
You know what's crazy too about us just showing Raekwon blowing up that center from the 0 tech? That's the guy we got from South Carolina in undrafted free agency. That Donnell Stanley. That's who Raekwon was pushing back like it was nothing, man. And that's what I wanted to say. Guys, we didn't go as in depth as we did with the other clips, but there was just to show you there, even when he wasn't tackling the ball carrier, you saw how much he was impacting that pocket and how much of a pushback he was giving it. I mean, the guy was creating pressure, he was creating havoc, and I think a lot of people got away from the fact that, he wasn't getting the sack numbers that they saw in year 1 and year 2. But if you look at the tape, he was still causing issues. And BallGame pointed out, look at what happened in that first play or the second play. They wanted to run towards Raekwon. They saw the push he was getting, and the guy kicked it outside because he didn't want to come there.
Yep.
So
and again, a lot of what he brings to a defense, it's not recorded in a box score. You know what I mean? Even though he didn't make the play, look at the push he got and the attention that he drew from the offensive line, which frees up other people, which frees up the linebackers. That's it by design, is basic, 2-gap, 3-base, 3-4 principles. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily designed on one individual player.
He does all this
going
stuff.
out and getting 12, 13 sacks, based off their, individuality. Again,
he
a lot of what this kid
show up in the stats. He does the stuff that ain't gonna show up on the stat thing.
Exactly. He frees up again. A lot of what he does, you will not see in a box score, but he's still contributing because he's making plays. Just his presence, his ability to push and reset and bend and dent the line of scrimmage like that. That's creating opportunities for other players, other linebackers.
He still had an 11.9 pass rush win rate last year. That's still very good. From
an interior player as well.
Yeah, and I mean
from an interior player, which is outstanding.
Look at it. He was 59 snaps over the A gap, 391 over the B gap, 122 over tackle, 63 outside of tackle. He had snaps off the ball. Like you talk about this guy is being moved around so much, and I don't think people really understand how big that versatility is when it comes to Flores. Because if you look on the offensive trenches or if you look on the defensive trenches, what's the theme, guys? A lot of our guards can be guard or tackle or guard or center. A lot of our guys can be 3 tech, 5 tech. You know what I mean? Like everywhere. So I mean, look at Van Noy. They're even expecting out of our linebackers.
Multiplicity.
Say again, BallGame?
It was just crazy to me that he was still available.
I think BallGame. I think if he put up, and I'm not, even if he put up 8 sacks, he didn't hit that 10.5 sacks that he had in that season early in his career. I think if he would have saw 6, 7, or 8 sacks, he would have been gone in the first round.
Crazy.
And see, BallGame, they're just, they were dinging him based on his pass rush production. Again, they're looking they were grading him, from an NFL perspective and not a Dolphins perspective. Exactly. And Chris Greer highlighted that when they selected him. He said he laughed when they were talking about, I guess somebody was bringing up the fact that people were criticizing him based on his lack of pass rush ability. He laughed. He said, well, we're not, the things that we're going to ask him to do, you're not going to see in a box score. You can't record that. So again, ideal scheme fit, perfect player for this scheme, bro. Perfect.
Yep.
This defense has the ability, man, with the pieces we have thus far that they brought in, to be unreal. If we stay healthy, if they stay healthy, it's gonna be scary.
Mm-hmm.
I would hate to be an offensive coordinator having to try to figure out who to go after, because man.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, it all starts up front. If they drastically improve their run defense, if they go to just middle of the pack in terms of run defense,
that's
tell me, man, it's overall defense, bro.
That's those
we'll be a playoff team.
That's those 3 or 4 games that I said additionally that we'll win just there. Just
exactly.
Just those games alone last year where we had teams in situations and couldn't get them off the field were opportunities that could have went back to the offense, man. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, getting the opponent off the field so the offense can be on the field as much as possible. If we own the time of possession of the ball against our opponent, we have a better likelihood of winning games, and that's what the defense is job for. And they put together one hell of a defense right now, man, on paper. So it's gonna be hella interesting to see what.
Telling you, man, it's gonna be fun to see, bro. And just the different personnel groupings, the different personnel groupings. It's gonna be crazy.
Golly, man, I'm already a Flores fan, bro. But I sit right here right now trying to think of all the combinations of things that. How you can get Baker and Kruger Hill on the field together with Van Noy in the middle, or even going with Van Ginkel in a younger group, and hell, even just go NASCAR.
Yeah,
bring it back to old school NASCAR, man. You know what I mean? Everybody standing up. Everybody, send 8.
Send
8. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I fully
make them have to make quick reads, type of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I fully anticipate that too.
On the edges, man. 2 premier
exactly
guys, man. Oh man, this I'm telling you, this is gonna be a nightmare for offensive coordinators, bro.
Oh yeah, I think that'll definitely be the objective, BallGame. At the end of the day, you got guys that can cover, and again, they just got to improve up front, bro. They need to get to the midway point in terms of their overall ranking in the run game.
The thing that blows my mind is last year we went from Jerome Baker needed to take on middle linebacker responsibilities basically because out of necessity. But now, BallGame, the amount of depth we have in our front 7, it's in EM. It's crazy to see that depth go from 0 to basically now we don't know where certain guys are going to fit. I mean, that's what I love the most about Flores, and we know these players because we've watched film on them. The quality they've added too. They just didn't add bodies. The quality they added through free agency in the draft, it just makes it even more exciting. It's not just okay, we got depth. We got quality depth, legitimate rookies, like a guy like Curtis Weaver, who in 2 years could be ready for a starting role. You know what I mean? So that's what's crazy to me. I mean,
they definitely have what most teams would consider a great problem to have right now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
The thing is, I'm waiting. I'm hoping, man. I want to see what these training camp battles are in regards to we talking about the edges tonight, but that wide receiver group, man.
And that right side of the line.
Oh yeah,
the right side of the line.
Real speed, bro. Some real speed added to that group, man.
Yeah.
So
that offensive line is going to be another good battle too.
Yeah.
So we're almost at the 2-hour mark. Anything else you guys want to add before we get on out of here?
Nah, man. I just thank y'all for having me, man. I was lucky to be around, man, and be free. I had done a little spot with TD earlier, man, and then when you hit me, Reason, I always try, man. I always try to make myself available for y'all, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
They got a lot going on.
Yeah, man. You know, you're an extension of you already know you're an extension of this channel anytime. Anytime you want to chime in, bro. You already know that. So
indeed,
you already
bro.
know what it is.
Much love.
But yeah, I just hope this was insightful. You know, when they hear I hope this was just insightful for the fan base. Because a lot of times, you know, and I've been consistent about that, you know, about educating, bringing a much, taking their football knowledge to you know, increasing, you know, the casual fans' football knowledge. So when they hear programs and watch programs on TV and they're using, you know, the different terminologies, they'll have a better understanding of what teams do, and they're just not sitting and just watching who's scoring touchdown, who's scoring the most touchdowns. Yeah. They're watching the football, and they'll be able to understand football on such a broader level. So hopefully this was on the defensive side of the ball. Hopefully this was insightful for them, and they learned something. And yeah, man, they can just take it into the season, and you know, again, they can you know, because I tell people all the time, football is a different language.
It is.
Football is a totally different language. You have to sit down and you have to learn exactly the details, the intimacy of football to have a broader understanding of what teams are doing every Sunday.
Once you do
that was my goal.
Once you do it, it slows the game down.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's so when you're watching football from that perspective, the game is so much more entertaining.
It's like ballet.
It's so much more entertaining.
It's like ballet. It don't even look interesting to you a whole lot unless, you know what I'm saying, you see somebody like getting put up into the air and all that type of stuff. But when you actually understand the intricacies of what's really happening, you start watching ballet, you be like, oh man,
yeah,
this is amazing.
And another thing is now, I mean, we hope that one day we get to the point where now the casual fan understands, okay, that's why he got stopped in the backfield, or that's why that hole was there for that running back to hit, right. Or that's why, you know, that's why that receiver caught that ball when that route was supposed to be a go route, why that route was altered to more inside the hash because the quarterback realized inside leverage was where that receiver is going to win the battle. Like, if they can understand why plays happen the way they do, then we know we've done our job, right? So
stay out of that 2 a.m. Sports Center highlight Madden Ultimate Team mentality.
Yeah,
get out of it and stay out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Well, guys, we've hit the 2-hour mark. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We appreciate having y'all. We'll be back Friday night, and I guess until then, as always, it's fins up, everyone. Hope y'all stay happy, healthy, and safe.
All right, y'all.
You already know what it is.